Hey, y'all. A couple hours ago, I was on MSNBC with Katy, and I was in a different shirt, so the shirt's going to change halfway through this video. But, you guys, we know each other at this point. It's fine. I can be in different shirts. I was just thinking when I was doing school pickup about the conversation we were having, and it was this very kind of, it started as this very kind of DC focus, who's interviewing Jake Sherman, who's great, covering the Hill on Punchbowl, about like, what are the political implications of the shutdown, and how could the shutdown come to an end, and how are negotiations happening on the Hill? And this is like how the shutdown has usually been covered traditionally, right? It's like one party wants to shut down the government because they're trying to get something, or because they're trying to decrease spending. They have leverage on it. There are other people that have specific asks, and like the question is, can they come to the table? Will Obama negotiate with Boehner? Like this is, will the Freedom Caucus guys negotiate with Paul Ryan, right? Like that was the history of these things, at least the modern history of them. This one's a little different, right? Because the House and Senate Democrats do have a substantive ask, which is these Obamacare subsidies. And that's like the stated reason for the shutdown. But like nobody's negotiating. They don't really have a counterparty for that. And I think most of us believe that like, well, that's the stated reason for the shutdown. Like the unstated reason for the shutdown is the Democrats trying to use any lever of power they have to demonstrate that they're going to stand up against this authoritarian, lawless administration, this regime. And so in that context, it's kind of like, well, is so-and-so in the Connecticut's 3rd district who's vulnerable because of healthcare, right? Like that kind of stuff, right? Like, can you get the moderate faction from the other party to agree with you? Like, there is no Republican moderate faction. The only Republican speaking out about this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? And so, like, it's just the wrong prism to look at this through, right? Like, eventually it will have to come to an end. Eventually there'll be some kind of negotiation. But like, what's happening right now is power politics, and Trump is trying to do power politics by demonstrating that he can fund whoever he wants, whenever he wants. He's going to be lawless. He doesn't care about the shutdown. He'll just fund the troops and not fund these other projects. He'll fire government workers. So like there are real consequences for the government workers that are being laid off, and that's like serious. So I don't want to ignore that. But like from the political standpoint, like Trump didn't care about them. Trump doesn't feel any political pressure. House and Senate Republicans are just going to do whatever Trump wants. So if Trump doesn't feel any political pressure, they don't feel any political pressure. And then the Democrats, again, their motivations, the stated motivation is to get this Obamacare subsidy extended. But like their real political incentives are to demonstrate they're fighting, to be tough, to stand up to the administration, to draw attention to the fact that healthcare premiums are going up, prices are going up. There are illegal federal troops in the streets of your cities, menacing and harassing people, even U.S. citizens, right? Like that's what they want to get out of it. And so looked at through that prism, right, where it's not really about the policy negotiation, but it's about the broader power politics, neither side is incentivized to stop this anytime soon. So the thing that will have to happen to get this to stop is like some actual negative impact on people's lives. Whether that is the unpaid workers working at airports, causing flight nightmares and travel nightmares and all the downstream negative effects of that. And there are a variety of other things that it could be. And that will come to a head eventually, for sure. And, we'll see how things shake out. But in the meantime, I think that the Democrats see this as a political win, which I'll explain in this clip. And the Republicans aren't really incentivized to crack for any, given the fact that Donald Trump doesn't really care about the impact on people. So that's where we're at. Stick around for a little bit more. I just kind of wanted to contextualize that. I'll be in my blue denim shirt on the other side of this. Subscribe to the feed. we'll be seeing you guys soon.
Marjorie Taylor Greene continue on this media blitz, Tim, where she is torching the Republican Party. She's torching leadership. She's talking about prices. Well, they haven't brought prices down, she says. She's talking about the health care subsidies. She's saying leadership didn't inform her or any of the members that they were not going to extend those health care subsidies. She's talking about how Republican men are weak and they're afraid of strong Republican women like her. I mean, she's not, and she's been doing this for days now. She's not backing down. Is she an effective voice for the Democrats at this point?
I mean, absolutely. I've got no notes for her. Everything she says seems pretty spot on. And look, this is a political environment where, like, the Democrats, I don't think the Democrats are that concerned about the midterms for next year. And the midterms are so far from now. Does anybody even remember when Elon Musk was in the government? That was like 4 months ago. The midterms are 13 months from now, right? So much can happen between now and then. And so I think the Democrats' political calculation is, can they demonstrate that they're up for fighting this administration and keep their base happy? And I think that we're saying that the answer to that is yes. The base wants them to fight on this point. And then secondly, can they kind of win for once some media cycles against Donald Trump, who just has dominated them in the media narrative throughout his whole administration, pretty much? And I think the answer to that is yes, in part because of, the healthcare issue is a poignant one, in part because Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing them a solid, dropping some truth bombs and getting a lot of attention in the way that Donald Trump has been known to get attention in the past. And I think in part because of the administration's actions, with the masked agents in the streets, which is also getting a lot of attention. So I just think for a confluence of reasons, the political incentives for the Democrats right now are not to negotiate or to come to the table in any way. And as you mentioned at the top, and as Jake did, Trump is just doing whatever he wants, funding the things that he wants to fund. So I don't see a ton of incentives either for this thing ending. I will throw out there that maybe Palm Springs might be a more up to date cultural reference as far as time loop movies. That was a couple years ago. Groundhog Day is about 25 years old now, but I'm just doing my best to keep y'all young.
But the fact that I can barely remember it or even who was in it means that it's not as resonant as a cultural reference.
Andy Samberg was great.
Yeah. Sure, great. It's not Bill Murray. And it's not Groundhog's Day. So there.